button. So I want to welcome all of you to Blue Light at the Gallery. I am really excited about the three poets who are going to be reading tonight. We have Toni Ortner, author of most recently, The Girl in the Yellow Dress. We have Dane Cervine, author of Deep Travel, At Home in the Burning World. I'll say more about all the poets before I introduce them. And Raphael Block, author of The Dreams The Dreams We Share, author of The Dreams We Share. Okay, and we have two births to celebrate. Raphael became a grandfather two days ago. Very, very exciting. And my birth is my book, Mermaids and Musicians. It just got published last week. I don't have children, but I have books. So those are the types of births that I do. Um, Okay, so Toni, you can unmute yourself and I'm going to introduce you. Toni Ortner lives in Vermont. She's the author of 33 books. Most recently, The Girl in the Yellow Dress by Kelsey Books. Passing Through by Deerbook Editions and The Van Gogh Notebook by Dancing Girl Press will be published in 2025. So we have a very prolific writer here. If you want to learn more about her, go to toniortner.com where you can see her books and reviews and hear a recording on SoundCloud. She spends her days meditating, reading, gardening, walking, writing, and painting. Toni, you're on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. First, I'd like to thank Diane. I can't see me, so you'll tell me if I'm in full view because
You're
I
good.
can't see myself. Okay. I want to thank Diane for inviting me. I feel very, very honored to read with the other two writers and especially for this particular press. So the first thing I'd like to say is normally this time of year, if I'm giving a reading, I would be discussing and reading poems about flowers and nature. But I'm not going to do that tonight because I feel that we're all stressed out in our own ways and deeply affected by what's happening morally, politically in the world. So this will not be the normal type cheerful nature reading that I'll be giving, although I will perk you up hopefully at the end by some poems about peonies. So first I'd like to say a quote by Thich Nhat Hanh. I meditate every day and study Thich Nhat Hanh. And the quote is, "Man is not the enemy. The enemy is hatred, anger, ignorance, and fear." And what I say is none of us is a number, neither a Palestinian, an Israeli, a Muslim, or a Jew. We are all unique and deserve to live despite our differences. I normally read from a book that's already been published. This book has not been published yet. It's called Eyes Wide Open. It's about the first few months of the Trump administration. It's about what's happening in Gaza, and it's about what's happening in Ukraine. The preface to the book is very brief. Think of this book as a warning shot. A flood you cannot stop. A word that is whispered in your ear that you're meant to hear. A pamphlet you pass to those you trust. And the first section, of course, as I said, will be about Gaza. You appeared in a dream, a woman I do not know, with a long face and high boned cheeks. You do not speak. Your dark brown eyes pierce me like a lance. You wear round-shaped eyeglasses with thick black rims and smile as if we're friends. What are you trying to tell me after all these years? When? How did you disappear? What country are you from? What did you do and when? Are you a journalist? Are you an artist? Are you a mother? What were you fighting for and what did you believe? When others vanished, when bodies were floating in the reeds, were you silent or did you speak? The next poem is called Today is the Day of Mourning. Today is the day of mourning for the Jews murdered in cold blood October 7th, for the 5-year-old child who saw her mother shot to death, for the last chord of music heard at the festival before the drones sailed in, for the thousands of Palestinians killed. Today is the day of mourning for the Jewish hostages still held in the tunnels, starved and beaten for no fault of their own, for babies buried under rubble, for thousands of living gaunt and stunned. There is nowhere left to escape. When bombs fall on Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, and Israel, a white bird flies over the blackened cities, a flare above the dark shadows of morning. The next poem is called History is a Spider's Web. History is a spider's web that contains millions of translucent threads. President Salvador Allende of Chile machine gunned at the top of the palace stairs when his niece Isabel fled. Pablo Neruda poisoned to death. Socrates holding a gold cup. What did he say with his last breath? Giordano Bruno burned alive by the Catholic Church at the Campo de Fiore in Rome because he said the earth revolved around the sun. The Romanovs, huddled in a dark basement facing peasants. The Russian princess who crawled in a ditch singing a Christian hymn, who angered the guards so much they hurled a grenade in to shut her up. Julius Caesar sang, Et tu, Brutus, as he lay drenched in blood. But there is a song you hear without ears. There is a flower you see without eyes. The next poem was written as a response to a friend of mine who is very afraid of a knock on her door, which is understandable. Don't kid yourself, look. History has sharp talons and can swoop down wherever you are, even if you think you're safe in your house. You may be washing a dish, singing a tune. It may be summer, winter, spring, or fall. When it plucks you out of the life you know, shows you what you do not want to see, and takes you where you do not wish to be. 1 minute, you're standing at the sink washing a dirty dish, and the next, you're shot in the back and tossed into a ditch. And any Jew knows this is true. That is why they carry jewels in little bags sewn into undergarments. The French queen screamed as she was dragged to the guillotine. I tell you this now, so you will open your eyes wide, and I kid you not. History has sharp talons and can swoop down when you least expect. In Libya, they always said, stand by the wall, take care of your family, and keep your head down. It is their time, not ours. And when the Revolutionary Guards banged on the door, they smiled and served them tea and offered imported cigarettes. They even hung a poster of Gaddafi on the wall. Don't kid yourself. Look, remember the piles of burning books. Next one is a little bit lighter about climate change, but not much lighter, I'm sorry. Um, as of today, the Palisades fire has burned 23,707 acres. The Eaton fire has consumed 14,117 acres, and the Kenneth fire burned 21,052 acres. The Pacific Palisades are destroyed, and the Santa Ana winds are blowing in gusts 100 miles an hour down the canyons and into the basins. How could we have thought we could cut down all the trees and live without soil in which to plant seeds? How could we have thought we must accept the greed of a few while the rest of us work like slaves to buy food kept under lock and key? There are tracks in the snow today, but I do not know what animal they belong to. The next one is a little shorter. I was researching journalists all over the world who had been attacked by their governments. Yesterday, I read about journalists who were murdered in Chile, Argentina, Russia, Syria, Brazil, Bangladesh, Ukraine, Mexico, and Malta. Too many to name. Shot in a home of their own, at a radio station, walking to work, entering a cathedral to pray, or drinking a cup of tea in a cafe. Bodies torn apart by bullets. For what? For telling the truth that those in power did not want the people to know or hear. As of today, President Trump has put a freeze on all federal funds and in one stroke destroyed diversity, LGBT rights, and health for the disabled. No more medical research on cancer or infectious disease, no more daycare and nutritional programs, no more SNAP to provide food for the poor and elderly, no more housing for the homeless, no more nonprofit groups to study climate change. But it happens so fast, a man says. It always does, another replied. I can't bear to read you another serious poem of this stuff. I think I'll skip one heavy one. There's enough heavy ones. This was written on the second day of the hostage exchange. We open our eyes on this, the second day of the hostage exchange, the second day of the ceasefire in the land of sand, under the auspices of gods in all languages. We rise from our beds on this, the second day of the ceasefire declared in the land of dates. We bow our heads to the hostages exchange, released from dark tunnels who walk slowly, dazed, into the light. We see the tears of the families who wait. We bow our heads to those buried under rubble whom we cannot see or name. We open our eyes on this, the second day of the hostage exchange, and bow our heads to body parts that go of how, why, when. We open our eyes on this, the second day of the hostage exchange, arranged by the brokers of peace, clothed in opulent robes, who drink from golden bowls. Next one, I'm going to begin to just speak. There's a few on Ukraine, and this was, I'm addicted, I guess, to PBS News and NPR. And this was after watching PBS News. The clock continues to tick past births and deaths. Titania hit by shrapnel with her son and 8-year-old daughter. They lie down in Ukraine. They will not rise again. The maternity hospital is shelled today, and a woman in labor rushed out on a stretcher while the politicians talk. What has been breached? What is lost? Is there a bridge we cannot see that we must cross? This is sweet. This was from NPR about Ukraine. Vladimir, who is 69 and lives in the eastern part of Ukraine, is interviewed today by a reporter from NPR. Russian troops are steadily advancing, destroying everything in their path. And now they're 50 miles away from Vladimir, who continues to tend 80 pigeons and says, if a person were to remove one pigeon, he would know which one by its face and markings and its mother and father. He has been raising pigeons since he was 3 years old. The reporter asked if he fears for his life. He says, when your time is up, it's up. Otherwise, keep on living. He lifts two black and white pigeons high into the air. On the other side of the world, we hear them coo and imagine his smile. One more about Ukraine. Um, the wife blown to bits with her two children as she tried to leave Ukraine. What is her name? The Russian soldier whose bones are pressed into dust. What is his name? The journalist in Malta whose car exploded into bits. The 3-year-old boy shot in the head by a stray bullet. The brain dead child who wrote a sonnet in her head. These are the passengers in my train. And now for some more cheerful ones. The time of the peonies is here. It actually is. I saw some beautiful red ones today. They flare into the soft June air and turn the hours pink and white. You rush out to cut them and arrange bouquets in every room. The bloom lasts a few days until they fade. Nothing left but shadows and silhouettes. Here's another spring one. You, whoever you are, as you walk down the street made of dirt or concrete, lost in your thoughts of what you want or need, lift up your eyes and see the gold leaves on the maple tree that flutter lightly in the breeze. Consider the roots, how deep they run, and tell me then there is no God. Just two short ones. This was written after a tornado, but it's not depressing. Today, a great wind has come. Yellow leaves are driven off the trees. The wind is blown in from the sea. The river rises and smashes against the docks. We watch the houses tumble down banks of mud and boats turn into splinters. What do I know? And what can I say? Not a single soul is ever swept away. And just one more. This is a letter. I write my mom letters. She died about 28 years ago, but I frequently write her letters. Dear Mom, what was the etude by Chopin you used to play when I was young and it was spring? You used to throw open the curtains each morning and sing, oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. It is 26 years since you went away. I do not believe you are dust and bones buried in the mud in Goose Bay. Thank you very much.
Round of applause for Toni. Thank you so much for sharing your poems with us. Clearly, you occupy the role of poet as the conscience of the society. Um, I love there are tracks in the snow, but I do not know what animal they belong to. That was amazing. And of course, with the peonies, they turn the hours to pink and white.
They
So,
do. So we have the peonies, we have nature, and we're part of it, which is a great blessing nowadays.
and some a sweet blessing that we need. So thank you so much, Toni.
You're very welcome.
Dane, you can unmute yourself. Our next poet is Dane Cervine. Dane Cervine's Deep Travel is a book of contemporary Japanese haibun reflecting recent travels through America, Europe, and Morocco. He has 9-Volt Nirvana forthcoming from World Poetry Press. What a great title. Dane's poems have won awards from Adrienne Rich, Tony Hoagland, the Atlanta Review, and more. His work appears in The Sun, the Hudson Review, Tri-Quarterly, Poetry Flash, Catamaran, Miramar, Rattle, Pedestal magazine. I'm going to have to stop naming magazines so that Dane still has time to read. Um, he lives in Santa Cruz, and I'm going to ask all three of you to, after you read, to put your contact information, any website information about where to get your books in the chat. Okay, Dane, you're on.
Great to see everybody. Diane, thank you so much. It's good to be here. I have to say, this Deep Travel from Saddle Road Press is an experimental book. I've never written a travel log in a high-bun form before. I have a Zen practice and I'm a therapist. And so I found myself while traveling using this contemplative writing form just to bear witness to what we were seeing in our travels and to look back at America from that vantage. So I'll just start reading a little bit. It's really almost more like a novel. It's a little story that goes along. And you'll hear me pause at the end for a little haiku that came spontaneously after I returned and wrote these. You'll find us here in Santiago. The book begins in the Midwest, a big Catholic wedding and a train ride back to California. And my wife went on to the Santiago Compostela trail that she walked all by herself. And then we met here. It is my first full day in Santiago, while Linda has been trekking the Camino for over 2 weeks. We walked to Cathedral de Santiago de Compostela for a full Catholic Mass, though we are informal Buddhists. The immense cathedral full of patrons, pilgrims, and tourists alike. In such moments, I am gullible as they come. Organ music swelling, mesmerized by the swing of an impossibly gargantuan incense brazier back and forth through the center of the church, toggled by priests pulling thick festooned ropes as fragrant smoke spews the air like a pagan dragon. I'd believe most anything in this moment, that we are worth saving, that anything can still happen on this smoking thurible of a planet. The sway of the brazier like a hypnotist's watch. So that's how we began our little pilgrimage together. And I'm just going to kind of move forward weeks at a time. This is when we were in Porto. I write, we are on pilgrimage together, each in our own way, all of us. The desire to leave familiar shores, break out of the pandemic bubble with its rigor of sheltering in place, to travel broadly before traveling itself becomes impossible, whether from age or new pandemic or war. The usual chaos that, like weather, can surprise. But how to get inside the eyes, the experience of old and young alike, for whom America is not the center of the universe. For some, like the young French student on the bus, America is a mysterious sprawl, so very big, so foreign as to be unknowable, even with relatives in New Jersey, wherever that may be, he says. But his life is here in Europe, and I fall under its spell, sensing the lives of older Galatians and Portuguese, watching them slowly walk to and from church, banter over cappuccinos and wine at cafes, families talking loudly or quietly with pathos as absorbed in their own worlds as I am in mine. But theirs has nothing to do with America. And I'm spun by this vertigo in an unusual way. Falling in love with other countries helps me fall in love again with my own, like an old marriage, that young ache still pulsing. The garçon offers me wine, as though family. One of the things we loved we spent 2 weeks in Porto, so we had time just to sit with the rain and wander odd little streets. And I found a little museum library that was extremely charming. I'll read sections of it. It says, we spy a library museum with a unique exhibit. Long rows of rare books, old, occult, and scientific topics interspersed with sound recording devices from other ages, wax cylinders, a phonoautograph, magnetic tapes. The text reads, radiothesia, capturing, conducting, and comprehending invisible forces. I suddenly feel right at home in the eternal new age that springs each century in another geography before it wanes, like a vast underground conspiracy or mycelial network surfacing here in Portugal, where the brochure announces books are trees, libraries are forests, books are force fields. When closed, they harbor secrets. Once open, they operate as resonant fields. When and if we open them, we enter new worlds. We encounter enigmas, things that have remained hidden since time immemorial that allow us to connect with hidden yet palpable dimensions of our daily existence. That was all in the brochure. This wedding of written and oral traditions. We amble in dim light from one showcase to another, viewing, quote, archaic and archetypal objects that accompany us transgenerationally and transculturally. We see antenna, pendulum, lightning rod, dowsing rod, radio, echo chamber, book, magnetic recording. Listen for the sound of water, the ethers, restless spirits. The exhibit giving, quote, rare access to obscure and hidden areas of this Biblioteca Publica Municipal of Porto. The cathedrals can wait. The history museums with their generals and wars. Here on an obscure corner in Porto, I listen, eardrum reverberating with subtle waves, spine a tuning fork for the invisible. There is no curator. The door simply open. We went, next, we went to Morocco kind of on a whim. We knew an amazing man who has a fusion Moroccan jazz band that plays in Santa Cruz periodically, and he lives in Morocco. And he set us up with some of his friends to really get an inside experience of what it was like to be in Morocco. It's probably one of my favorite stretches of the book. So I just thought I'd give you a little glimpse. We're in Chefchaouen, which is the blue city on the hill, just utterly enchanting. We meet our guide for the day, Mohammed, in the hotel lobby. He is full of smiles and stories, tells us he is 37 years of age, grew up here in Chefchaouen, left to get a university degree in Morocco, and for a while worked in a factory before deciding to return to his hometown and become one of the tourist guides. He knows each alleyway, artisan stall, secret Sufi enclave, like the palm of his hand, is proud to show off not only his Chefchaouen, but the broader history of Morocco. Oh, to be as in love with one's country as Mohammed is. Not so much the empire of it all, but the corner bakery, the blue walls, the stream where women still laundered clothes despite the lonely washing machines silent in their alcoves. They'd rather chatter and sing together, Mohammed says, and asked my wife Linda if she'd like to try her hand at scrubbing a rug in the traditional way. The women laugh as she kneels, throws herself into the fray, for a moment becoming them, one human being learning another. The soap is lathered into froth like the sea. I was really struck while in Morocco too by the collision between these ancient cultures, Berber, Arab, French, Spanish, multiple languages now on the signage, a benevolent king, sort of, still in control. But the young people are all flocking to the cities and come back with cell phones. And so it's changing everything. And I found it very poignant standing with Muhammad in front of a door in Chefchaouen that says something about this. In Chefchaouen, Muhammad pauses in front of yet another blue door lining the curving streets like exits from a labyrinth, each a portal to a world I will never know. The doors are decorated with symmetrical patterns of black nails or bolts that in the old days documented family births back through generations. Doors that held many generations, doors older than America as a country, Muhammad says. Suddenly, I feel blue vertigo as centuries whirl down this alley like wind. Though nowadays, he says the designs are mainly decorative. Families grow and move to other villages, to Casablanca or across the Mediterranean. Lives like wind, not a bolt, not a nail in an old door. The markets are full of eyes looking no further than here. Well, this was a moment of just the integration of opposites, of the love of tradition and the sense of the wind blowing around the earth and carrying even the young outside of their traditional, lives that they knew. I will, let me see, I'll give you a flavor. Every once in a while in the book, I read a lot, and sometimes the authors accompany me. I have to do a shout out. If I were to recommend one book to you from these travels, it would be by Maria Rosa Menachal, Ornament of the World: How Muslims, Jews, and Christians Created a Culture of Tolerance in Medieval Spain. I just learned a lot about the Andalusian area and the writers involved, and it's a delightful read. Sometimes Lorca came to visit me. First full morning in Sevilla, I wake slowly in our flat while Linda walks early. The church bells toll loudly as though we're inside the cathedral itself. Yet so seductive, I wouldn't think of covering my ears. It's time to delve back into my Andalusian writers, to a bit of Lorca this morning with his ecstatic melancholy. He writes, "The great sadness. You can't look at yourself in the ocean. Your looks fall apart like tendrils of light, night on earth. And from the return, I'm coming back for my wings." An American is ever suspicious of melancholy, as though it's the great failure. In Spain, it seems the secret to living. How else to fall in love with night and moon, in music and the literature of dream, to find again this nub of lost wings. Lorca sings to me like the great friend. I'm going to read one more from this selection and then just a few from 9-Volt Nirvana. But at the end of our, we come back, generally follow the seasons sort of in this writing. And I was really struck by this experience at the border when we were coming back from Montreal into the United States. We are driven to the Montreal airport by a broad smiling man from Haiti who came to America with family before settling in Quebec, his Haitian French helping to navigate this new land. At the airport, we were struck by how friendly the Canadian airport staff are. Faces mostly Black, accents mostly French, as though understanding the essential fragility of journeys. As we passed to US Customs, the American staff were deadpan serious, some fundamental paranoia, perhaps, of boundaries, of what can happen. Linda is randomly tagged for a full backpack search of her belongings, a red stamp put on her boarding pass after, for unknown reasons, causing new moments of delay. A little old lady terrorist alert, we laughed after. And yet at another checkpoint, Linda makes the mistake of answering yes about having anything to declare. An orange, prompting a long wait for a supervisor to finally come and ask her about the orange, and that yes, we'll have to leave it behind. The orange, a language undeclared. So that's a little taste of that book. This came out at the end of 2024, and then just last month from Word Poetry Press came out a book called 9-Volt Nirvana, which is what I call my regular poems. And this, just to give you a sense of, this is where my Zen and therapist and poetic life kind of comes together. Some of the subtitles give you a flavor for the book. Second Thoughts on the Spiritual Path, Immigrants All, The Koan of Mind Swims the Abyss, Smoke and Mirrors, which is a whole section about our traveling to India with about 15 people from Santa Cruz, and then coming home again. So I'll just give you a little taste. When we visited this orphanage that Mount Madonna Center has been connected to for many years, and we spent quite a bit of time there for 1 week. This poem is called Feral Joy. At the orphanage, the tough, tiny wire of a girl pulls me by the hand, as she does all who visit. To the asphalt straightaway, latches onto my arm as she balances on her razor skateboard while I run. Her eyes wild with joy, as though still racing from the street she was born to, the sex trade beyond this ashram's walls. After each run, she turns the razor round, says, again, again, as my own children a world away once did. My old spine creaking, knees rebelling, I meet her dark, dancing eyes, glimmering like candle flames, adrift on the Ganga, and run. There's a lot about some of our perceptions there, but I was really struck when I came home, and I was talking with Lobo, who was working in our yard. And this poem, Pruning Trees in America, is actually on Lee Herrick's, California poets site where anyone can, send or post poems. You should check it out and submit some of your own. I think you can still do that. So this is called Pruning Trees in America. Lobo, the name of the arborist, Lobo leans in, shows me photos on his phone of the large black metal clamps fusing his spine, long scars lining his back like trenches in the body's war. He's old, weathered as a beaten rugby ball, scrambles like a goat to make a living, pruning trees with his crew. Asks about our trip to India. The poor, were they happy? I speak of the Indian family on whose roof we were offered chai, where the clan ate and slept on colorful woven carpets open to sky while their milk cow munched hay in its downstairs dirt-floored room. Lobo ponders this, wistful about his own modest dreams, to avoid living in the homeless tent shelter blossoming near the freeway. His Mexican crew to find a country to live in. Lobo is happy for work, removing the stubborn roots of dead trees, pruning the young ones. We talk of the Indian cow in its stabled room, a sky full of heat and storm, Indian saris worn for festival and carrying dried cow dung alike, the golden and red hues of the homeless tents here. What it means to have enough, to curve with the body's age, to find the root of death and happiness. And I'll end with a poem from the last section where we come home from all of our travels. And I have two grandkids. One is Wyatt, and he's an utter delight. And this is where a little bit of my Zen comes in. You've probably heard the word a koan. It's a kind of a evocative little twist on some thought that helps open you up. So I called this Wyatt's koan. Zen Master Dafui says the little doubts that plague can be embraced by cultivating great doubt during koan meditation. This don't know mind an essential Zen inquiry. What is this? What is this? A moment by moment cultivation of awakening, which, of course, the answer, I don't know, I just don't know, somehow becomes my grandson Wyatt's impromptu exclamation when confronted by any toddler quandary. Where the colorful balls went under the couch, or where his red shirt disappeared to as he parades around the house bare-chested, his brow knit in perfect furrows, eyes wide and humorously troubled, arms flung open, palms up. The flip side being great faith, curiosity and wonder, better guides for anything lost. The flung shirt, the hidden red and green and blue of even a planet, not lost, but waiting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dane. Round of applause for Dane Cervine. There was so much to love in your reading. The Pagan Dragon, The Relatives in New Jersey, what you said about books, and a lot of wise words. I believe that we are worth saving. We are all on pilgrimage together, each in our own way, spying a tuning fork for the invisible. Just delicious. Thank you for sharing all that you did.
And if you, like Diane said, I'll go ahead and put my website in the chat in case you want to look up. There's a lot of free stuff there.
Thank you so much. Okay, so our third poet, Raphael Block. So you can unmute yourself. Raphael Block has lived on 3 continents and resides happily in Northern California. A longtime meditator, he breathes in wonder at Earth's and our own rhythmic ebb and flow. He is the author of 5 poetry books, most recently, The Dreams We Share, and produces a monthly Earth Love newsletter. To learn more about Raphael, please visit his website. He'll put it in the chat, where you can download free poetry audiobooks and watch a National Geographic selected 5-minute documentary. I'm going to have to do that. Raphael, you're on.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Diane, for organizing all these amazing events. And Toni and Dane, it's wonderful to share this spot with you. And thank you, Toni, for going into the places that are on so many of our minds and hearts that you felt compelled to do. I do write about these issues, and most of the pieces aren't yet published. But tonight I'm going to focus on nature and the healing she offers us. So I'm going to open with a poem actually two poems from this book, Strings of Shining Silence. And I hope I'll share poems from all my 5 books. If there were 33, I'd have a problem, but 5 will do. First one is called To Her Loveliness. Each crinkly leaf, each trailing yellow shamrock or clover crown, each floating spore, swallow swoop, canopy of thousands dancing in the wind, each set of see-through humming wings, open-throated quaver, bright-spiked shoot, each fledgling oak tottering on its slender stem, scarlet neckband draped round golden poppy, each pair of coupling gold-rimmed beetles, sunbathing mottled rock, swan-wing scented iris, binds us to her loveliness, binds us to her loveliness. Songster also comes from the same book, and it goes like this. O sweet loquacious songster, I am your eager ear riding your streams and trills. Be my companion, so when your notes have risen into silence, broken only by a breeze weighing on the leaves, I will not forget my pledge made during your ecstatic bursts. Sing to me, sing, so my heart may turn in twilight's ebb, and through the night be drawn along liquid ways. Sing to me, sing, so my heart may turn in twilight's ebb, and through the night be drawn along liquid ways, until your dawn song breaks its banks again. Buffet comes from my book Spangling Darkness, which is richly illustrated by a London artist, Claire Allen. And it's about someone I worked with. She was a classroom aide. Buffet. Grey, bespectacled, middle-aged, light streaks of kindness first drew one near. Kids and adults and boy, there were plenty. Snippets and snatches revealed 3 grown children, the youngest adopted, mentally impaired, elderly parents in a nearby home, a husband, migraines, pains rarely shared. Haven't you got a lot on your plate? One day I suggested. Oh, that, she chuckled wryly, went years ago. First it turned into a platter, then a buffet. Oh, that, she chuckled wryly, went years ago. First it turned into a platter, then a buffet. The next one, Clay Spirit, is a tribute to my mother, who loves ceramics. It also belongs to this book, Strings of Shining Silence. Excuse me. Clay Spirit. Breakfasting, I feel the warm clay bowl of my mother's making cradling my fingers. Solidly thrown, her name etched on the bottom. The beige glaze reflects a range of creamy whites to speckled browns, just like her eyes, just like her eyes. My hands rest on its generous rim. What feelings travel through her hands to mine? What feelings travel through her hands to mine? She who transmitted so much that I rejected and now hold sacred, so much that I rejected and now hold sacred. From my first book, Songs from a Small Universe, comes this one called Linked. Linked to the four-winged feathery flowers and prickly blades, to the pine tree with its pale new fingers and brown cockatoo whirls, to the crow gusted off its path, which then becomes its own, to the earth beneath my feet, freeway can't hide it at all, to every patch of sky and stone, to my daughter and dead wife, whether the cell phone is off or on, to the Romans through my boyhood swimming in their Mediterranean harbour, to the glistening moment, so sleek it streaks out of sight at the slightest clink, to parents, alcoholic daughters, deranged sons, to the purple and goldfinch's songs, the drone of plains, roaring desert wheels, roaring desert wheels. My latest book is called The Dreams We Share, as Diane mentioned, and the last poem in it is called In the Land. In the land. There's a peace in the land, a peace in the land. Morning fog and cloud dome the sky. Across the view fly a pair of Eurasian collared doves. In Glastonbury or Machu Picchu, Mecca or Uluru Ayers Rock, you'll find resonating in you a deep peace in the land. Cars pace the highway, a scrub jay pecks ripening apples, when in the temples of Kyoto or shrines of Srinagar, or your own backyard, each time you open, there's peace in the land. From the same book comes Light Vessels Take to Water. Light vessels take to water. I'm ravished by the sunset boats burning beside each other, moored next to cerulean and soft-edged pink. As this light sails in me, then it must in you. As this light sails in me, then it must in you. Pines and redwoods blacken the sky. The fiery vessels flame. Pink melts while cars below race where. A bird begins to chirp. Who will be home first? A crescendo of reds. The boat slowly slide down the ramp of the hill into the sea. A crescendo of reds. The boat slowly slide down the ramp of the hill into the sea. From At This Table comes, I consider all the poems a gift, so I'll call it that. This gift called Heart Throne. I lost an eye. What a relief. Fungus kept creeping back into my oar, but now no more. I lost a friend within 2 weeks. His spirit soars, though his family flounders in their grief. From behind, two sharp-clawed paws rip open my chest. My life force flees in bloody rivulets. By the banks I sit, an emptied shell. One eye takes in all this terrible magnificence. Fiery leaves swirling in waters that fall and flood beyond my will. Doors flung open to my throne, let in lynx, fox, and you, my friend. Doors flung open to my throne, let in lynx, fox, and you, my friend. Back to the dreams we share. Ode to Ocean Fog. Ode to Ocean Fog. We have no mouth. We are all openings. Each pore welcoming molecules of delicious moisture that trickle through our capillaries, down our stems and trunks. We are grass, weed, meadow flower, coyote brush, apple, blackberry, and vine. We sing and bow to the ocean fog as she dances, whirling through our leaves and branches, swirling in on the cool evening, stealing across the land, over the pine and redwood ridges, into the oak and bay tree valleys, now almost thick as wool, suckling all life. Also from Spangling Darkness, these are the last two I'm going to share. If I can open it. It's the last poem, and I'm hoping I can just give you a sense of the illustration. We'll see if it works or not. Oh, it's actually, is it the last poem? It's close to last anyway. And that's one of, it's a fine pencil drawing. It's probably really hard to see, but they're quite something. They're all on my site. If you get to raphaelblock.com and look under books, under Spangling Darkness, you'll see all the illustrations. And this one is called Between the Two Shores. Cloud shadows sweep underfoot. Whisking sand streamers snake low, yet this is no desert. Waves continuously conceive along the shore. Gulls, sanderlings eye each crest retreat, plucking mollusks in razor beaks. Along the curved walls of the Estero's womb, seals softly bark, brown pelicans rise and dive, spread eagle wings glide just a few feet to fish for catch we cannot see. This is Eden's garden. We are in its play. Why do I visit so infrequently? This is Eden's garden. We are in its play. Why do I visit so infrequently? Thank you. Spell of Rain is a more recent poem, and I'd like to end with that one. Tonight, I listen to the rain rushing through the trees, looping down the windows, breathing in delight. This is enough, more than enough. I don't need the sights of another war assaulting my eyeballs. There is time enough to mourn the ignorance and terror of men. This night, let's candlelight and spirit be my companions. As the rain drops, gushes, roars, fortissimo to pianissimo, back to mezzo, followed by a silence. Merciful storm raging through the land, wash away the suffering, wash away the suffering. Strike earth and sky, healing our rifts. Clap away our fears, clap away our fears. Quench our thirst for peace, quench our thirst for peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Raphael. I love it when poems become prayers. The way you ended that last poem was delicious. And I was just thinking of all the different prayer phrases as you read light streaks of kindness, boyhood swimming in the Mediterranean harbor, sunset boats, a deep peace in the land. And then those wise words, this is Eden's garden. Why do we visit so infrequently? So, really fine writing. And another round of applause for all three poets, Toni Ortner, Dane Cervine, Raphael Block. Um, Information about how to find their poems is in the chat. If any of you came as a guest and want to be invited regularly, please send an email to bluelightpress@aol.com. I have that also in the chat. And for those of you who are local, we're having a live reading at the MSA Gallery